I'd like to introduce our first speaker. I'm not from Pennsylvania, but I understand he's a real hero here in this state. He was elected in '98, state representative. He's also the lead sponsor for National Security Begins at Home. He's also the founder of the state legislature for legal immigration. There are 32 states signed up right now with different legislators, 32. So I hope you give a really nice welcome for Representative Daryl Metcalfe.
Good afternoon. State Representative Daryl Metcalfe from Western Pennsylvania, Butler County in Western Pennsylvania. Made the drive here today on Labor Day weekend, about a 4-hour drive across the state to come here because this is one of the most important issues facing our nation. Thank you all for being here. It's good to see Americans out here that are willing to stand up for their rights as American citizens and to stand up for protecting our great nation. It was very appropriate to lead off with our pledge to allegiance because the allegiance to our nation has been lacking in Washington, D.C. Our federal government for decades has been AWOL in fulfilling their constitutional responsibility to protect the states against invasion, which is a clearly defined constitutional role of the federal government. They have been so negligent, so irresponsible in their lack of doing their duty that it is time, it is well past time, for state legislators to join together and call upon our federal government to do what it was that they were founded to do, and that's protect our nation. My first experience with illegal aliens was as a young 18-year-old soldier stationed in Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso, Texas. When I first went to Texas, going there from upstate New York where I grew up, it was my first encounter. One of my fellow soldiers was a American-born Mexican-American and had relatives that were still in Mexico. And even at that time, he shared with me his problems and his concern about illegal aliens that were coming in our nation at that time. Well, then it seemed like a border state problem. It seemed like a southern border state problem. But here we are. That was back in 1980-81 that I was in El Paso. Here we are 26 years later. It's no longer just a southern border state problem. This is a national problem. This is an illegal alien invasion that is occurring on the soil of America. And if we do not stop the invasion, it will be the end of America as it's been known.
That's right.
We got to win this thing.
That's right.
I'm a state representative here in the state of Pennsylvania. I've joined with several of my colleagues, State Representative Tom Creighton, State Representative Scott Perry, State Representative Mark Mustio, and a number of other co-sponsors. And we have introduced this session a package of legislation that we've entitled National Security Begins at Home. The rule of law is of the utmost importance to Americans. It is not appropriate for anyone to try and come into our nation and ignore our law to get here.
True!
You'll hear from a speaker today who represents a group of individuals who has been severely impacted by those horrific attacks on 9/11 that took so many American lives. How quickly our politicians in Washington, D.C. and across this country forget that it is time to battle this war on terror, and the only way to end the war on terror on our soil is to make sure we have secure borders.
Right.
And that's why we entitled our package of legislation in Pennsylvania, National Security Begins at Home. Our package of legislation would go after employers who are hiring illegals. It would go after public benefits that illegals are able to tap into. And it would ensure that our law enforcement is able to enforce immigration law in Pennsylvania in conjunction with working with ICE. A lot of talking heads around the country have tried to make the argument that we shouldn't address the illegal alien invasion with those that are already within our borders because it's impossible to round up millions of people and deport them. Well, I say you don't have to round them up if you shut off the economic faucet. You shut off their jobs. You shut off the benefits. They'll go home on their own. After working on this legislation last session and holding hearings across the great state of Pennsylvania with many of my colleagues in the Republican Policy Committee and finding out more information like we found out from Attorney General Corbett's office that we are spending millions of dollars a year in Pennsylvania as Pennsylvania taxpayers incarcerating illegal aliens who are committing crimes, and we are not being reimbursed that money by the federal government who's allowed those illegals to come here.
Right.
We are spending hundreds of millions of dollars in Pennsylvania as Pennsylvania state taxpayers on educational benefits, on health care benefits that are being delivered to illegal aliens that do not belong here. We are having crimes committed across this state, from the black tar heroin ring that was busted out in Allegheny and Beaver County this year, to the murders in Altoona, to the recent capture of an illegal alien who stabbed a police officer in New York and fled to Pennsylvania, to the illegal aliens who are training to attack our soldiers at Fort Dix right here training in Pennsylvania. It is time to bring this to an end.
Right.
And after looking at all the information that we gleaned from those committee hearings, and after working on our own package here in Pennsylvania and seeing how the federal government has tied the hands of states and local governments like Hazleton and the mayor of Hazleton, who's battling the illegal alien invasion there in his hometown, trying to ensure that we put an end to this, at least in his community. When we've watched and seen how the feds have tied our hands and passed immigration law, we need Congress to work with us. And that's when I came up with the idea, working with my staff and working with colleagues, that we need to move forward with a national effort. And that national effort that I founded earlier this year, that I started working on last year, is called State Legislators for Legal Immigration. StateLegislatorsForLegalImmigration.com. We currently have 31 states represented in that coalition, and we are working to build it out to 50 because every person that's in office that raises their hand and swears to uphold and defend the constitutions of our great country and our states, individually and respectively, every individual in office has an oath to defend that Constitution and needs to be with us to put pressure on Congress. Our mission as State Legislators for Legal Immigration is to push, enforce, and call upon the federal government to work with those of us that serve at the state level, to work with our local communities, to secure the borders, to shut off the economic faucets of illegal jobs and illegal benefits that illegals are tapping into, and to once again secure our great nation and protect American lives and property. The sign up front that says "Stop the Invasion," that's the word that I've been using to describe the activity that's occurring in this nation and has been occurring. This is an invasion. You cannot call hundreds of thousands of people coming across your border every year anything less than an invasion. I served on foreign soil to secure a foreign border while I served in the United States Army as a soldier. There is no excuse when we have secured the borders of Korea and Germany and Kuwait and other nations around this world. There's no excuse why our border has been left unattended.
That's right.
That is the reason that I use the word AWOL, absent without leave, for describing the activity of a Congress and presidents, not just this president, but every president over the last several decades that has failed to secure our borders is partially responsible for what's going on, whether they're Republican or Democrat. They're responsible, and it's time to be accountable and be responsible and protect the citizens of this nation. Everyone have a great Labor Day, and we'll continue the fight, and we need your help to do it.